Good evening. We'll call the meeting to order. If you'd please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Danny, would you please call roll?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Wales.
Here.
Councilmember Baggett.
Here.
Councilmember DeCoursey.
Here.
Councilmember Holman.
Here.
Councilmember Pelosa.
Presente.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
A key.
Councilmember Wagner.
Here.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to announcements, proclamations, and presentations. I don't believe that we have our 31st District Representative Morgan Irwin with us yet. He was doing a town hall, I believe, at the Performing Arts Center. So we will move to South Sound Behavioral Health presentation, and we will start off with Tim Thompson. Or maybe we aren't starting off with Tim Thompson. All right.
Well, so good evening. My name is Bill Roberts, and it's my privilege to serve as the President and CEO of Multicare Health System. And thank you, Mayor Backus, and the members of the Auburn City Council. It's a privilege to be here this evening. Thank you for the time that you've given us to talk about something that I think is near and dear to many people's hearts, but clearly a need in our community. And that is the access to behavioral health services. So I want to start by talking about the why of behavioral health services. What is our environment like, and why did Multicare Health System and the CHI Franciscan organization come together to partner in this space? So if you look at places outside of the state of Washington related to access to behavioral health care, it depends what it looks like across the United States, but Washington ranks 48th in the United States in terms of access to behavioral health services. Now, that would be good if 50th was the best, but thank God for Louisiana and Alabama, or we would be at the bottom of the list. And when you look at access to behavioral health care, it can be measured in all kinds of ways. One way of measuring access to behavioral health care is how many beds per 100,000 inpatient beds of psychiatric care per 100,000 population exists. And in the Pacific Northwest, on average, there's about 28 beds per 100,000 population. So that's not a lot of beds of inpatient care. In the state of Washington, we have about 8.9 beds per 100,000. So that's about a third of what others have. And in the region that is South King and Pierce County, we have about 2.8 beds per 100,000 of population. So we're about 1/10 of what normally you'd find in this Pacific Northwest region. In addition to access to care in inpatient settings, there's typically a full continuum of ambulatory type services, residential type services, clinic-based services, which also are not as robust in our region as in other parts of the United States. And so 3 years ago the then president of CHI Franciscan, Joe Wilczek, and I were in a conversation about the challenges we had related to the behavioral health patients that ended up in our ERs and huge challenges getting access to care. And we concluded that there was an opportunity for us to be part of the solution. Now, it's not the whole solution, but a big part of the solution, and that it would be better for us to solve this problem together than to try to solve it separately. Some challenges actually take collaboration to make them work. And we believe that in this space, behavioral health care, that collaboration is the best way to meet the needs of our community. Now, you may think of the Franciscan organization and Multicare as fierce competitors. And at times, we are fierce competitors. But the reality is we have an extensive history of collaboration. So this idea of collaborating around behavioral health wasn't built on nothing. It was built on a history of working together. So one of the things that we have had an extensive collaboration on for at least 18 years is the trauma system for the Pierce County region. On one day, it'll be Tacoma General Hospital, and the next day it's St. Joe's, and on the next day it's Tacoma General. Every other day, our trauma team, and it's one team that's jointly sponsored between our organizations, moves back and forth, and which actually works exceptionally well because it allows when the patients end up in the hospital, the teams to get a little bit of a breather inside the hospital till the next day that they're on. So it works exceptionally well. And it's one of the few places in the United States that it's been handled this way, and we're really proud of that. So that's one collaboration. Another collaboration is the Carol Milgard Breast Center, which is the region's leading breast health program in this region. It's a collaboration, a 50-50 partnership between the Franciscan organization and MultiCare. Another one is in the public health space. We are together partners on Ready, Set, Go, which is about childhood obesity and making sure that our kids actually have a healthier future than what they would have if they didn't grow up if they grew up without obesity. So we're excited about those kind of partnerships. So this was kind of a natural progression for us as an organization. So so we believe that together, in partnership, not just with each other, but broadly in the community, we can address behavioral health care much more effectively. Now, we are in the middle of a project. We have certificate of need approval for a 120-bed inpatient adult psychiatric hospital that will be on the Allen Moore Hospital campus, which paves the way so we don't have to have hearings around whether it's a hospital campus or not, because it's already a hospital campus. We have a near final plans for construction. In fact, the approval for these plans is going to happen later this week, actually, on Wednesday. So we're very excited about that. Our own governance approval, it's already been approved at the state. It's a 120-bed inpatient adult hospital that will also have crisis stabilization beds in the hospital. And that adds to the capacity that we already have at Auburn Medical Center right down the street, that we have at Tacoma General Hospital with adolescent, and that we have at St. Joseph Hospital with adult inpatient care. Now, behavioral health is a continuum of services. You really hope to be able to intersect with behavioral health challenges before it ever becomes a crisis and someone has to end up in crisis stabilization or acute inpatient. But we always are going to have individuals who need those services as well. And both of our organizations have invested substantially in building out continuum of care and partnering with others that's in the ambulatory space. So both the Franciscan organization and MultiCare now have behavioral health professionals that are part of primary care offices, because that's the best place to start dealing with behavioral health issues and behavioral health situations. Our kids, we are all doing assessments for depression, and then we get kids into care, and adults as well. We think that between the things we're doing as organizations, the thing we're doing in partnership with others, and with the construction of this new 120-bed inpatient hospital, that this region will go from being one of the least served regions from a behavioral health perspective to one of the best served regions. The idea of this, though, is it takes a community. It takes all of us working together, and we are fortunate to have a coalition of amazing folks from the South King County through Pierce County, across all walks of life, and you're going to get to hear from some of these individuals tonight. So it's people from labor, people from business, people from law enforcement, people from just business in general, people from education, people from government, all working together to create a community of support for addressing the behavioral health needs of our community. And we are excited about the fact that in partnership, we will create what our communities need. So thank you for your interest and your active engagement in helping us create the needed capacity to meet the behavioral health needs of our community.
Thank you.
Mayor Baucus, members of council, thank you for having us here this evening. My name is Greg Unruh. I'm president of the Franciscan Foundation, which is part of CHI Franciscan Health. There's not a whole lot left to say after Bill Robertson, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of perspective from the Franciscan health system. The opportunity to partner with MultiCare was really a once-in-a-lifetime situation, and certainly arising from the community health needs assessment that we did a few years ago, and this being a burning priority. And I don't think that's a surprise to anyone in this room. But I feel pretty fortunate that I live in a community where we have two really exceptional health systems. We cooperate, as Bill pointed out, in several areas over the years. And the reality is that both of us are stretched to capacity. And if one of us was missing in the area, we would have a severe crisis in meeting the health needs of our community. But as it turns out, in mental health, we do have a crisis. And so coming together is really at the heart of our mission, and that is to take care of those who are the most vulnerable among us. As Bill pointed out, we've pulled together an amazing coalition of folks, community leaders who have worked with us very diligently, over 80 members over the last 2 years to make this a reality. So we feel pretty fortunate with that. You just have to look at our overcrowded ERs. I hear all the time from our hospitals, from our physicians about how they're dealing with the situation with folks who show up there who have mental health issues. We have homeless vets on the street. We have obviously JBLM in our backyard here. So we have a lot of military folks who are suffering from mental health issues. In addition, our first responders are the sheriff of Pierce County will tell you that he runs the largest mental health hospital in the county, Pierce County, with the members or the numbers of folks there who actually have mental health issues that they're dealing with. So these divert time and resources and basically provide, or people attempt to provide service in a venue that just does not meet the needs of those who are suffering from mental health issues. And so we believe that coming together, working together to make this happen. Derek Kilmer, who is our congressman, has been the convener of our coalition. And we've been working at the federal, state, local, municipal levels to secure funding around this, as we would do on any other project that either of our health systems do. And so I want to just thank all of you for the opportunity to be here tonight to tell our story, to address this severe need in our community. It's been a long time in the coming. I think we're making a huge step towards addressing this issue, and hopefully as we progress forward, it will continue to grow. We'll be able to provide the services for those who are the most vulnerable in our community. So thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you, Greg.
And with that, I'd like to introduce Brad Cheney.
Mayor Backus and council, thank you for having us tonight. I'll be brief. Following to folks like Bill and Greg, they said a lot of what I had to say, but I am the co-chair of the behavioral health campaign to build the hospital in Tacoma that will not only serve Pierce County, but will serve South King County as well. And my day job is a foundation president. I make grants to nonprofits as part of my job every day. And when I look at these partnerships that have been formed between Multicare and the Franciscans, it gives me hope and it gives me strength that this project will be successful. The other piece that I think that has been alluded to is the Behavioral Health Coalition. And as Bill Robertson said, it's made up of law enforcement, healthcare, businesses, nonprofit, religious leaders. It's an amazing group. And I've done a number of campaigns over the years, and this one's as good as I've seen as far as the constituency backing this. I also just want to once again confirm that this partnership between Multicare and Franciscan in my world is fabulous, and it's kind of a perfect recipe. They're going to manage, run, and take care of this hospital, and it'll be on their nickel to keep it going. Our job is to raise the money to get it built. I'd like to thank Mayor Backus, who has been a leader. She's been an inspiration. She's been had vision about this, and in fact, what she probably won't tell you is that she was in on one of our biggest grant requests in this campaign and did a great job and helped us secure $1 million grant for this. So, Mayor Backus, thank you. That is a huge deal in our efforts here. This crisis is real, and it knows no city limits, and it knows no county lines. It's important to all of us that we take care of this. I didn't know a lot about behavioral health until I got in the middle of this, and I can tell you I see it every day now when I'm driving around or when I'm in my hometown of Tacoma. But if Auburn can join us in this, it would give us more strength, and we hope you will, and we thank you for your consideration. Thank you.
And now it looks like we have the famous 10 pumps.
I notice infamous is probably the stressor there. You guys should have. Mayor Backus, members of the City Council, it's a privilege to be here in Auburn. And by the way, I want to compliment the city. Every time I come to Auburn and get a cup of coffee or have a meal, and I would say maybe a beer and maybe watch a Zag game from time to time. The city is thriving, and I'm very impressed and appreciate all the work that you put into the city and particularly your service to the council. Let me just touch on a few key areas, and I'll do it very briefly. One is that to go back to the larger issue, I'm struck by the fact that the last time Pierce County and South King County came together, we were able to move a transportation package through the state legislature due to the efforts we were making on SR 167 and 509. We're stronger together because we seem to have a lot more identified in the South King and Pierce County area, both our demographics, our culture, our community, and the kind of people that we see and need to serve. The good news about that is we've been able to really come together and solve very systemic problems that have been around for decades. And it's a tribute to the leadership and the way the communities work together that we get there. I must emphasize that if you had to look at a metric, a simple fact, the simple fact is that South King and Pierce County today would rank amongst the urban counties to be one of the lowest, if not the lowest, underserved area in all of the United States. We are number one in not having enough hospital beds for mental health patients. Number one in the state, and arguably within that same stratosphere across the United States. The reason that is so problematic is because what that means is that our citizens, the people that face these crises, estimated to be 1 out of every 5, I think, Bill, of a person, nationally statistic, means that we're serving them in our emergency rooms, driving up the cost of care for all of us that have to go there, and they're not getting the degree of treatment. It means that you're paying enormous amounts of money to jail those citizens, and they're still not receiving treatment, and that too is costing you and the taxpayers millions upon millions of dollars. And the third component is you're treating them on the streets where you have no ability to deal with any personal safety issues. You put law enforcement at risk. Every day they have to go out and deal with these. These are just community facts. And what I am most proud of with the coalition is we've broken down the communication barriers just to talk about these issues. And the personal stories that have emerged around crisis in all walks of life. If you look down that list of those members on the community coalition, about half of them at one point in time were telling personal stories about a loved one, a neighbor, a friend, a family member of any kind. And I think that tells a lot. So we set out to try to seek an answer to this community crisis, and our theme is the community crisis needs a community response. It needs a little bit from everyone to get the capital to build this hospital, that they're on the hook for sustaining all of the operations. They're putting up $20 million on the capital side, and then they have to run these. We want this to be around not just for 1 year, we want it to be around for 20 years. We also want to pick up on something that Bill mentioned and that Greg mentioned. It isn't going to work if we don't have a continuum of care. So if we can have a hospital, but if you don't have links to South King County services, we don't have links to Auburn, we don't have links to Puyallup, we don't have links to the county system of providing services, it all breaks down. You need it all. And I think one thing that has emerged of this is that we have an agreement, we're going to fund all those particular activities. So I appreciate you giving us time. The report that I can give you is very good. We have secured $5 million in obligated funds from the state of Washington to date. I believe we'll get an announcement. We hope between 2.5 and 5 million from the state this year through their grant process, where the state is going to be a major player because obviously the state has this funding need for our particular effort. We've also been able to secure a piece of legislation that is now moving through the United States Congress. And South King County and Pierce County will now become a model where we will make loans available to facilities and structures like this to induce the ability to build these hospitals. Because in the past, as you can relate on all your federal funding issues and state funding issues, is they will pay for the service of the treatment of the patient, but they never pay for bricks and mortar or capital, which means you can't build anything to get it served. And so you always stay back into this underserved kind of conundrum. If you can't build it, then you can't serve them. And in this particular instance, what we've done is break down those barriers. We believe we're going to have a bill that's going to be sponsored by Congressman Kilmer, Republican Congresswoman Jamie Herrera Butler, and the chairman of the appropriate committee in the House. And we think that's going to be acted on, which will provide loan services, not just for this facility, but also facilities like it throughout the country and potentially other areas. Also good news is we have secured a commitment in the Tacoma budget at $1.5 million. Pierce County just announced through the executive that they're going to give 3 installments of a little over $500,000 annually to get approximately to $1.5 million over 3 years. Gig Harbor is giving $50,000 annually for a period of time and adjusted in that next year. Stillicum, Fircrest, Puyallup, Lakewood, University Place are also all jurisdictions that are going to participate in one form or the other. We believe we'll have firm commitments from all those folks within the next 2 to 3 weeks. What we have come together on is to ask Auburn for approximately $400,000. How you go about doing that is really an issue that Mayor Backus has made clear requires the council and yourselves to collaborate about how to do that. We appreciate the role you play. I certainly do. There's always more need than there is wallet, as they used to say. And there's also the idea that we leave those decisions up to the jurisdiction on the how. But we greatly appreciate the request. And again, I would just conclude in the fact that of all the issues we see that truly does affect both our bottom line and our bottom line as humanitarian concerns, mental health touches it all. And we need your help, and we'd respectfully request that you contribute $400,000 to this effort. And again, the how you would go about doing that, we're wide open to. We take that approach with each and every jurisdiction, and we're confident at the end of the day, we will have strong community participation, a robust hospital, and a robust continuum of care to serve these very people that I know you care about. And we're open to any questions, comments, or editorials about the Gonzaga basketball performance over the last 2 games in the NCAA tournament.
Council members have any questions? Councilmember Pelosa.
Thank you, Tim.
Councilman, good to see you.
Been a long time.
I know.
So this 400,000, when, what's the timeline on it?
Well, the way I would answer that question is we would like some amount of capital or capital commitment this year. And again, we would try to work with you on how you want to do that. To us, what we are asking for is the total number, and how you get there and in what form you get there. We respect both the deliberations you have to go through. Ideally, we would want some amount of capital this year. If you needed to stretch it out like other jurisdictions, we'd do that. City of Tacoma, for instance, found it economically, it was better for them just to allocate the 1.5 all at once. That's what they've done. Other jurisdictions are spreading those payments out.
Deputy Mayor Wales.
How was the 400,000?
Your microphone isn't on.
Thank you. How was the $400,000 amount arrived upon?
We set about two basic criteria. One was just general population, looking at all the jurisdictions. We came up with amounts based upon their population. And the second one is just kind of the general overlay of the service area. It wasn't I'll be very clear, it was not a precise form, but when we looked at it, we went to the coalition and said, what is this basically representative of the population and the impact, and that's what we came up with.
Is it possible for us to get a listing of city by city or region of what each of those is?
We'd be
Thank
glad to provide that all to you.
Councilmember Wagner.
The Pierce County Executive is enthused about this, but apparently his council is not, since they didn't want to pass a tax to work on this problem. So his proposal is still subject to the vote of the council, is it not? And so how firm do you think that $1.5 million is?
Well, let me distinguish. There are two separate issues, and that's an excellent question. And Councilman, I've been confused about what the Pierce County Council has done for a number of times on this particular issue. So here's what I understand the facts to be, and I believe that I'm accurate in this. The thing that got the most publicity was the council's vote on the 1/10 to join other jurisdictions across the state. They were frankly the only urban county in the state of Washington who had not done that. And that vote took place last year prior to this new executive coming in, and it actually passed, but it needed a supermajority in order to pass. So therefore, the practical effect is the 1/10 did not pass. That issue is now on a separate track. This kind of session of the Pierce County Council, which will take place over this next year, where the council will take up the 1/10 again, separate and apart from the executive's request for this amount. So his funding is not dependent upon the council passing the 1/10. And he is committed and has told us, as we have heard, all you need for that is a simple majority. You do not need a super majority of the council. So we're optimistic, but I was always trained to never predict the future, particularly of a legislative body. So we're very, very optimistic that this would pass, but until this is enacted by the council, we won't count on it. But I think we've got a very, very good shot of securing those 3 incremental $500,000 investments.
Councilmember Pelosi.
I apologize if you've said this, but what is the total project value?
I'm going to let Bill handle that.
So the total project in terms of construction costs is about $44 million, and then it has about $16 million of startup costs that happen. I mean, it's rather expensive to staff a hospital and get it up and running. So between all of that, it's about $58 million to get it up and running. And then, of course, at that point, we need it ultimately to be self-sustaining. But that's the investment.
So you threw some numbers there, and I'm not sure what you said. So the whole project is how much?
The construction cost is $42 million.
Okay.
Somewhere between 42 and 44 we have some. So at $44 million for the construction, and then it's about $16 million for startup costs.
1/6.
16 million.
Okay, thanks, Bill.
Yes.
Councilmember Wagner.
Bill, questions for you. When you create mental health beds in a place like the multi-care facility, is that as expensive as the $500,000 per bed that it's going to cost you down there at Allenmore?
If you have existing buildings like what we did at Auburn when we added the adult unit, that's a less expensive project. But the challenge is we don't have 120 beds in any one of our hospitals that we can build in that. In fact, as Greg mentioned, the Franciscan organization, all beds are pretty much full. We're running at 80-90% occupancy in multi-care as well. So there's not any place with extra beds to build. It would be less expensive if we had that, but unfortunately we don't.
Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Bill,
Your microphone, please.
how are you going to determine the people once you get this built, and how long are you going to keep them in your facility?
So the average length of stay that we think that individuals will stay in this facility is about 13 days. So this is not a long-term, this is not like a Western state hospital. This is crisis intervention. And we do not do insurance triage. I mean, you know, when people need the care, they go, so we admit them. So it's Medicare, it's Medicaid, it's commercial insurance, it's people without ability to pay. And we're committed to taking care of that full range of individuals.
So the 13 days will evaluate them and medicate them, or whatever
Yeah, the
their
13
need
days
is?
includes, it's crisis stabilization and early intervention to get to the point where then community-based resources can provide the care.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember DeCoursey.
So, Bill, in response to that, a couple things for me. One, it's interesting to see that if you look at our court systems and you go to review hearings, it's almost inevitable when a judge is talking to a misdemeanor that the judge asks the question, are you in counseling? We just see that over and over again. So kind of tagging on to Councilmember Trout Manuel's question, once they get into the point where they can go to community services, what's the process for them there? Because it's almost like a revolving door of having them come back into the system over and over again. And because we're 48th out of 50th, and because as a parent we don't have enough from the state coffers to do what we need to do in our mental health issues, that we seem to have this continuous process of over and over again. So how do we address that in what you're doing?
That's actually a critical question to how we in the long term deal with mental health issues in our state. And so to that end, we have created collaborative relationships with community-based organizations already. The Navos organization, which is a King County-based organization, is now becoming closely affiliated with a multi-care health system. Both the Franciscan organization and multi-care have added counseling resources and those type of resources into the ambulatory setting, and we are working together to expand those resources. Part of the challenge we have in the state of Washington is that since we weren't a state that really invested heavily in behavioral health, we have a shortage of behavioral health professionals. And so we are actively working together with Western State, with each other, with other behavioral health organizations to create a growing cadre of individuals who are interested in working behavioral health and have the skill set. And so as it's kind of like DNA. The double helix that is mutually supportive. And so the more we do in this space, the more people are interested in working in this region. And we're starting to actually be successful as organizations recruiting people from out of this region who would not otherwise have ever considered coming here because of the work that we're doing collaboratively. So it is a journey. We admit it's a challenge, but if we don't get started on it, we're never going to be able to get the resources that are necessary. But it is all in partnership and collaboration that we'll get there.
Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. Bill, are we going to be able to use the facilities like in Covington, the new facilities they're building, for any of this purpose?
So the Covington Hospital actually does not have behavioral health capacity on an inpatient basis. It's a med-surg hospital, so it's OB, orthopedics, some pediatrics, and things like that. We have 58 beds now of behavioral health care here at Auburn Medical Center. 38 are for geriatric psychiatric patients, and 20 are for adult inpatient, and that is nearly to capacity in terms of our ability to take care of patients. But the patients who would come through Covington or Auburn, once we have met our capacity here, will be able to be served at the 120 bed hospital.
Councilmember Pelosa.
Bill, what is the long-term schedule? What's your completion date?
So we're
estimated.
We're starting construction in just the next few weeks. We're going to be tearing down a building on the Auburn campus, which creates capacity, and construction is expected to be done by, let's see, I have to get my years right, 17, 18, by first quarter of 2019. So it's about a 2-year construction cycle.
But it's the Allenmore site, not Auburn site.
It's the Allenmore site. Auburn's already done related to psychiatric capacity, yes.
Any other questions? One of the things when we first started talking about a 120-bed facility, that seemed like kind of a drop in the bucket for the needs for this area. But when you consider a 13-day stay, that averages out anywhere from 3,100 to 3,500 patients being seen in that facility in any one given year. So that does fill a critical need within our communities.
Right.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Wells.
I'm excited about this. As I've worked in the public schools with kids that have behavioral disorders, we've usually had to rely upon Children's Hospital. And when individuals, adults or children, are taking a cocktail of medications that may need to be tweaked, sometimes it can't be tweaked at home and then brought in the next day and refined. In addition, stabilizing people, getting the right cocktail, and then hooking them up with the support that they're needed out in the community, it could take a couple of weeks. So it's nice to see that maybe we will make some real progress in meeting the behavioral needs in the region.
Yes. We're excited about the opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you all for your time this evening and the work that you're doing on behalf of the people in the Puget Sound region.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it
you for
very
your
much.
partnership.
Thank you. All right, I don't believe that Representative Morgan Irwin has arrived yet. Thank you all. So I am going to move on. I do have one presentation to do this evening. Okay, we do have one thing this evening, and she's probably not going to like this, but this is for our very own Danny Dascom. Danny, come on over. I know you need to type, but come on over. I'll give you the words that I'm going to say, so you can just pop them in. This is to celebrate Danny for her 25 years of employment and dedicated service to the city of Auburn. She began her career March 23rd, 1992. And let me give you just a little bit. So she hired in as a records license clerk. She was promoted to deputy clerk May 30th, 1995, and promoted to city clerk October 20th, 1997. Danny began her career in public service working for the city of Chehalis from 1974 to 1986. Now, this is an interesting fact. She worked with our very own city attorney, Dan Hyde, but she also worked with his twin brother, Barry, at the city of Chehalis. Two Hydes.
Yes.
How was that?
That was a challenge. No, really, it was enjoyable.
She's
We had a
still
lot of good
here. They're both
times.
still here. So Danny is also a former Auburn Employee of the Year. And she has covered, it says on here, literally hundreds and maybe even thousands of miles with friends and family, Volkswalking, and has taken many memorable treks around the globe. Danny, your 25-year service pin, I am honored to give to you, as well as some Gusenko chocolates to say thank you
Thank you
very
so
much
much.
for your dedicated service to our
Thank you.
city.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to say?
No, just thank you. It's been, I've worked with many wonderful people at the city over the 25 years I've been here, and some very fond memories, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. Yes, we are very fortunate to have Danny with us. All right, we will move on. We have no appointments. Danny, I don't believe we have any agenda modifications this evening. We have no public hearings, so we will move to audience participation. This is the place on the agenda where the public is invited to speak to the City Council on any issue. Those wishing to speak are reminded to sign in on the form provided, and please keep your remarks to 3 minutes or less. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Mayor Bacchus, City Council members. My name is Stephen Bailey. I'm a librarian with the King County Library System, and I work here in Auburn. The address is 1102 Auburn Way South. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm here to share our progress to date on the King County Library System strategic planning process. We began this process last year, and we're about 65% completed at this point. We hope to be done sometime this summer. The directions, let's see. So our community engagement process started out last fall with a community survey. We got almost 4,000 responses in 5 languages. We also did insight interviews with 48 community stakeholders around the county, and we held community conversations as well, including one here at the Auburn Library in December that was well attended. Through all of that community engagement, we got a lot of feedback about what folks would like to see in their public library. We were able to distill all those comments down and categorize them into 5 opportunity areas. The first one, not surprisingly, is learning. The public library does a lot to support learning by community members. Engagement was another big opportunity area. Equitability, kindness, and synergy. The kindness really surprised and pleased me because, of course, the library does excellent work. We took those opportunity areas and worked hard to develop some ways that the library could respond in those areas and make the library more relevant to their community. We came up with 29 conceptual scenarios. Those were refined down over weeks to 3, and I'd like to give you the overview of those 3 scenarios at this time. The first scenario we call connections and navigation. This scenario addresses the increasing complexity and rapid change in life systems and processes, as well as the disconnect and confusion sometimes felt by people in communities and across organizations. The intent of this scenario is to identify and fully understand issues, assets, opportunities, and resources relevant to the community, to create linkages and to provide opportunities for people to discover and learn from each other, and to provide customized assistance in navigating life systems and processes. The second scenario falls under belonging. It addresses the lack of sense of community people sometimes feel that's exacerbated by the pace of life, by technology, and by social media. It speaks to overcoming difference as a barrier and recognizing diversity as a strength in communities. And the intent is to be consistently purposeful about building cohesive neighborhoods and communities. The third scenario, a little more technical, is on skills building. It addresses the need to build capacity among people of all ages and in organizations to be successful in our rapidly changing society and world, and to create community-centric mindsets that bring people together to model and learn skills that support the appreciation of diversity. The intent behind that scenario is to facilitate skills building that support success in achieving goals and in collaborative problem solving. Again, the strategic planning process continues. The city clerk has a copy of these scenarios, and at the bottom of the copy is a link to a survey. We would love the participation of all of you. The online survey will be open through March 31st, and again, we'd love your input. Thank you again for your time. It's a pleasure to be able to speak with you, and we will be back in May or June to give you the final update on our strategic plan.
Great. Thank you very much, and thank you for all of the partnerships that the King County Library System has with the City of Auburn. We greatly appreciate your service and your willingness to partner with us.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Final time. Is there anyone that would like to speak? Please come forward, give your name and address for the record.
Virginia Haugen, 2503 R Street, Southeast, Auburn. I think I missed maybe the most important part of the meeting when I was coming in. I think we might have been honoring our I don't know what you call her, but nobody has a better clerk than the City of Auburn. But she knows what I think about the clerk's office. I was shocked, of course, yesterday when I heard of the passing of our former football coach at Auburn High School. I have a note at home from him. It is one of my most treasured things. He was here the night I was sworn into the City Council, I believe with Councilmember Wagner, and he was in the audience, and I knew that the football team was going to be here, and over all of my very dress-up clothes, I put Auburn Trojan football sweatshirt. And he's sitting right over there, and he kind of did a little thing with his finger and a wink, and a few days later, I got a picture of myself and a couple of people, and I've got the sweatshirt on, and he thanked me for supporting his team. He should never have thanked anyone for the support he got, because he just was the most honorable man I have ever known. My daughter was lucky enough, she thinks she was lucky because she got to do stats for him. And we will miss him very much. And the good part, though, was when I went to Fred Meyer and we had an Auburn cop standing right there, and everybody was looking like, well, this is sort of cool. I think we all felt very secure that day at Fred Meyer, so thank you to Auburn's finest back there. And let's have a very good week, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Final time. Seeing none, we will move on. We have no correspondence for council review this evening, so we will move to council ad hoc committee reports. Council ad hoc committee chairs may report on the status of their ad hoc council committee's progress on assigned tasks and may give their recommendation to the city council, if any. We will start with our finance committee, ad hoc committee, claims and payroll vouchers, and the chair, I believe, is still Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. Again, I'm going to have to change the words here because I keep getting repetitive every week. As members of the Council Ad Hoc Finance Committee, Councilmember Wagner and I reviewed the payroll vouchers and electronic deposits for approximately $2.1 million and claims vouchers and wire transfers for approximately $5.1 million for the period March 2nd to March 15th and March 20th, 2017, respectively. The Finance Committee had no questions for the Finance Directorate based on the review, and the committee recommends council approval of these expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the selection of the deputy mayor process. Is that Councilmember DeCoursey?
Thank you, Mayor. The committee to select the deputy mayor process met this evening before the council meeting. Council members Pelosa and Trout Manuel and I. We have looked at the time frame for making a presentation to the full council on the process. We're still doing some reviews and updates of other local jurisdictions, of how they do their processes, and we'll report back that. So we will be looking at making a presentation on April 24th, and our next meeting will be April 10th. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Safe City, I believe that's Councilmember Trout Manuel.
Yes, we didn't meet last week because I was in Washington, D.C., and we are going to be meeting with one of the groups tomorrow evening. We are also planning on hopefully to have, after we get all our data together, have something to report on April 24th.
Thank you.
We will be meeting in between then, too.
Okay, thank you. And then the recently established ad hoc committee for the $20 license tab fees has not met yet, so we will have a report after that meeting. All right, we will move on to, let's see, why is it not showing up here? We will move on to the consent agenda. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered by the City Council to be routine and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Wells.
I make a motion that we approve consent agendas A, B, C, and D.
Okay. So that would mean that you are excluding item E, Public Works Project number CP 1507, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So Mr. City Attorney, when we have an item pulled from the consent agenda, what is the process for that?
The process would be, assuming that the motion's seconded, then you'd have a separate vote on the 4 items and then see what happens after that.
All right. Do I have a second on that motion? Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I'll second that, Mayor.
All right. Is there any discussion on items A through D? Hearing none. All those in favor of the consent agenda items A through G, the minutes of the March 6th, 2017 special City Council meeting, minutes of the March 6th, 2017 regular City Council meeting, claims vouchers and payroll vouchers in the amounts listed by Councilmember Baggett previously, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes. All right, we also have item E, Public Works Project number CP 1507. Is there a motion? Councilmember Pelosa.
I move the acceptance of.
Can you turn your microphone on, please?
Thank you. I move for the Public Works Project number CP 1507 for discussion.
For approval?
Approval and discussion.
Okay, do we have a second? Councilmember DeCoursey.
I'll second the motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember Pelosa, did you want to speak to that at all?
Yes, I would. Thank you. This is $1.8 million project for 2017. And I have some questions of staff.
I believe it's 1.589.
Yeah, 1.6. I said 1.8.
Right.
Yeah, 1.6 roughly. I have a question of staff.
Okay.
The federal grant for $887,000, is that restricted for this project, or can these monies be used for other projects?
Ingrid Gaum, Assistant Director of Engineering, City Engineer. It is restricted to only this project and only this scope, as our most federal projects are restricted to the scope that we apply for.
Okay. Any other questions for Ingrid? Councilmember Wagner.
Ingrid, this is more of a general question, but it applies to this project as well. You engineers have shown us that by fixing the best roads first, in the long term, that costs us less. But it does leave some really bad roads not fixed for quite some time. I'm wondering if there's, even though it may be cheaper in the long run to do it that way, if we shouldn't have more of a mix of worst first and best first. What's your thought on that?
So my thought on that is you have between $1.5 million to $2 million a year in your arterial street preservation fund. As you can see from this grant, to do the overlay from 45th all the way down to 22nd is taking about half of those funds to match the grant funds. So in order to do a rebuild, such as we're doing for B Street Northwest, that took about a year and 3/4 worth of the funds to do that particular road improvement. So for us to do a mix means some years you would not do anything, and then you would do a rebuild, and then maybe you do an overlay the following year, but you're going to get less road work overall done. In the meantime, your good roads are going to continue to degrade and get to the point where spending money on those is going to be at a higher amount.
Councilmember Wagner.
I don't remember if you tried to synthesize that explanation into the State of Our Streets book, but I think we should give more publicity to that thought process. Because intuitively, people think you ought to fix the worst first.
Yeah. Yep.
And when you explain it, it makes sense to have somewhat of a mix, but heavily mixed towards maintaining the ones that are still pretty good.
Yeah, if you had more funds in the arterial street preservation fund, you could probably do a better mix of some rebuild on short sections of roadway with overlays. But at $2 million, it's you can already see from this. So this is a $1.5 million project to do about 20, not quite 20 blocks on Auburn Way North. So it takes quite a bit of money to do all of these projects and to do the rebuild. The SOS report does include some talk about why we choose what we choose, but we can certainly put a little bit more emphasis on that.
And Councilmember Pelosa.
I get comments a lot from residents. Why is the city repairing that street when over here it's a worse street? We get that all the time. I do anyway. So I deliberately drove up from 22nd to 45th today, up and back. Going north, the street I thought was good. Coming back down on the south, going south on the west side, it was marginal in some areas, and there was some patching that had been done previously.
So the way the grant process works for preservation, the projects that need to be rebuilt are not going to score to get grant funds through the federal process, through PSRC. The way that we score those is based upon them being at that right level of pavement condition index for an overlay. That's really how the criteria is set up. So we went to Auburn Way North a couple of years ago and did some patching of some of the worst spots in order to get the condition of that road to the level necessary for it to be able to score for a federal grant. Keep in mind, the federal grants for these can only be used on certain roads within Auburn. Not every road in Auburn is eligible. It has to be a federally classified road, which is basically your arterial roadways. So the grant process limits you to not actually being able to do it for rebuilds if you actually want to score high enough to make the cutoff to get a grant awarded.
There's even politics in fixing roads.
There are.
Can I ask you one other question, Mayor?
Yes.
And I compared Auburn Way North, 22nd up to 45th, with, in my own mind, with H Street, rather than going down M Street south, taking a right before you go under the underpass, and that H Street over to Auburn Way South. Is that a rebuild?
Do you mean F Street?
I think you mean F if you're talking about under the underpass there.
No, not under. I take a right going west. Isn't that 4th Street?
Isn't that
On 4th.
Yeah.
Fourth, but not H. Are you talking?
M Street south, and then you take a right.
So you're talking about 4th
before
Street
you go.
in
That's 4th
between
Street.
M and Auburn Way, yes.
That street is.
That is a complete rebuild. That is necessary on that roadway, and there are also utility issues on that roadway, so it also requires us to have utility funds available to do the utility work prior to doing the rebuild.
Okay, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember DeCoursey.
So unfortunately, and I'll say it this way because, again, with all my years of working with federal grants and the issues you are surrounded with when you're dealing with those grants is they have a system that doesn't serve us very well. So I'm not sure how we change the process for obtaining grants in this fashion to look at perhaps worse first. But again, I think it's one of those things of passing along with our federal legislators and asking them the question of why is it done the way it's done when this needs more work than this does over here. So perhaps it's part of our responsibility to even pass that message along a little bit stronger, a little bit harder, and maybe someday we'll get them to change their mind. I don't know, it takes forever, but maybe someday we'll get them to change their mind.
Deputy Mayor Wells.
Now that we have you up there, I'm going to ask you a very simple question that's too simple probably for a single explanation. But as we look at patching potholes, is there such a thing as an average size pothole? And if there is, probably not, but what does it cost to fill a pothole?
So there isn't an average size pothole. It really depends upon what's causing the issue in the roadway. Is it a subgrade issue or is it just wearing of the surface of the roadway?
Yeah.
If it's a subgrade issue, then you're talking about needing to cut through all of the asphalt that's there, dig out the subbase, rebuild the subbase, rebuild all the asphalt. If it's just wearing of the surface, then it could be a grind and an overlay to fix the particular location. It just depends upon how the road is failing.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor of Public Works Project number CP 1507, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Passes. All right, we have no unfinished business. We have no new business. We will move to resolutions. Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Your Honor. Resolution number 5277, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, approving the 2017 Storm Management Program Plan and authorizing the mayor to include a copy of the program plan in the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, Western Washington Phase 2 Municipal Stormwater Permit Annual Report for 2016 to the Washington State Department of Ecology.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Wells.
I move for the approval of Resolution 5277.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Baggett.
I'll second that, Your Honor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wells.
Again, this is allowing us to submit our 2017 Stormwater Management Plan, Program Plan to the state.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Hearing Councilmember Holman.
Yeah, this is part of the National Clean Water Act, and it's known by the acronym SWMP, otherwise known as the Swamp Plan.
Thank you. All right. Good. All those in favor of resolution number 5277, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes.
Resolution number 5289, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Auburn, Washington, authorizing the mayor to execute a third addendum to the agreement between the City of Auburn and the Aviation Management Group, LLC.
Thank you. Do I have a motion? Deputy Mayor Wells.
I move for the approval of Resolution 5289.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councilmember Pelosi.
I'll second it, Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Wells.
We are asking for a 60-day extension, so to allow us to figure out what the prevailing rates are as it would apply to grounds at the airport. And this extension will allow us to continue working with the management firm out there to get resolution.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of resolution number 5289, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Passes. All right, that is the conclusion of the business of the city, so we will move to mayor and council member reports. At this time, the mayor and the city council may report on their significant city-related activities since the last regular council meeting, and we will begin with Deputy Mayor Wells.
Thank you. I want to report on our energized junior city council. They met tonight. They are going to be coming, hopefully, on April 24th to do a presentation to this group on the National League of Cities. They came away with 4 large initiatives that they want to share with you. Some of them are requests and some are just statements. Also, they are going to be coming to a study session on May 22nd, where they are going to talk to you about their perceptions of an issue in the city of homeless youth. And they're quite energized, this group, from coming back from NLC. When you work with these kids and you need to sit in, Mayor Backus sits in, and you see the energy and the commitment of these kids, it's quite exciting. They are going to be asking to meet more frequently. They are going to be asking to join some of the committees and councils out there. They are developing a mission statement, and they want to develop some skills so that they could lobby. And so this is quite an energetic group, and I think we have something fun to look forward to. And again, I want to thank Mayor Backus for sitting in. You know, it's nice when the kids can see different quality leaders. You're welcome to join anytime. It makes they love sitting up here. The nice thing is, I think we now have 14 active kids. Mayor Backus has recruited 2 more. And they're actually starting to dialogue on maybe they need to do something regarding the membership criteria because the group is going to get too large. So we've come a long ways, and you can see that their commitment is growing, and they're going to be doing an application, like I hope the rest of us are going to be doing, for Clean Sweep.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will move next to Councilmember Pelosa.
First. Oh, you guys don't have any time. That was a joke, you guys.
Not really.
Not really. Okay. So, several of us went to the National League of Cities in Washington, D.C. last week, and I attended 2 or 3 discussions on opioids and the national problem. One of the speakers he was a mayor from Huntington, the city of Huntington, West Virginia. He said that they spent in 2016 $100 million to counteract the drug problem. He also said that 20% of the community new babies born had drugs in their system. They're losing young people at a high rate. And he said many die from the drugs before they hit bottom. So the National League of Cities put out this joint report, and those that went there saw this, and I will put this report out on the counter, and it's quite lengthy. The National League of Cities was partnered with National Association of Counties, and they put this together. The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, 20 vets die every day because of suicide, brought on by drugs and PTSD, serving their country over there. Whatever experience they saw did not do well for them. And there's a motto that was phrased by this one speaker: care for those who have borne the battle. Care for those who have borne the battle. One way to help at home and to counteract the drug epidemic is the Drugs Take Back program. Please, please, out there in the home, out in your homes, get the unused drugs out of the home. Get them out. Because if you don't, the youth that we're trying to raise to be good citizens and finish their lifehood, they will test the water if those drugs are around. Most drugstores and police departments in the area have drug take-back containers. Don't discard the unused drugs in the toilet. That's bad. You don't want to do that. This will contaminate the water, and the water goes into the rivers and other water bodies. It's harmful to the water creatures and our ecosystems if you do that. So your best thing to do is take them to a container in a drugstore or a police department. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Trout Manuel.
I as well attended the National Leagues of City, and I have to agree with Mr. Pelosa. Most of the meetings that I attended had to talk about the opiate epidemic, and I also attended the public safety and crime prevention. They talked about the opiates and how the police are now carrying the drugs in their car as first responders, and also the fire department. It's a very serious epidemic going around now, and all the cities, so we're not, the only ones that are being affected. Is throughout the whole United States. I also attended the Hispanic Hilo, and we talked about sanctuary cities. A lot of them have been faced with this problems, and they're not using the word sanctuary city. They talked about our state, and there are some states that are looking into following our state. Also in August, our committee is going to Mexico to go and visit the immigration and at the border, and also talking to some of the local people that work at the border and across the border. So it's going to be a very interesting trip to go over there and talk to businesses across the border, find out their wages and everything. So I'm looking forward to going to that convention. Also, I went to the immigration reforms. Again, they're talking about the sanctuary cities. The whole time I was there, it seemed like every meeting I went to, it was sanctuary cities was on top of our list. I went to the Women in Municipal Government. That one was more enlightening because they talked about recruiting women of color, more women for leadership, how to promote each other up, build us up to be leaders. And they had really good keynote speakers to talk about approaching young girls that are in high school, ready to graduate, going into college, and talk to them. And our council, they talked about the youth council to start looking at girls in that role to become leaders in the political arena. So overall, it was a great trip. Going to the Capitol, we didn't get a chance to see our Congress people, but we had a very good dialogue with their secretaries. They hear us. They said this year is a we don't know year because of how our president has been every day. They learn stuff through tweet, and it was very, very well done with both of the men that I was with. They did really well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Baggett.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have the privilege of being a relatively new member of the EMAC caucus and the EMAC Advisory Committee. EMAC stands for Emergency Management Advisory Committee, and they report basically to the King County Office of Emergency Management. This organization is made up, and I was amazed at the number of people that are tied into this organization just for this King County support. It's approaching, if not already, over 100 people. So it's a very large collaboration with different cities throughout the region, and also with a lot of representatives from King County Public Health and several other organizations and police organizations in all these cities. Some of you may have been familiar with a project that they did last year called Cascadia Rising, where they simulated in a drill fashion a 9.0 earthquake and tsunami drill. It was kind of amazing to see some of the results of this drill, which was a number of cities throughout the region were involved, including Auburn. And we have a very active emergency management organization that's headed up by Jerry Thorson, and we were just trained as a city council just a few weeks ago and what our role as a city council will be. But this Cascadia Rising scenario here estimated that it could kill up to 14,000 people and injure more than 30,000 in the Washington and Oregon area. This would also include more than 7,000 highway bridges and 16,000 miles of roadway that would be either moderately or severely damaged as a result of this drill. And this includes all routes to the Pacific Coast and Washington major east-west corridors. We are considered in Zone 3, which is headed up by a chairperson, Sarah Miller, who actually has a tie to the city of Auburn. And this organization, even in an advisory capacity, also involves support to and interface with Homeland Security and the Federal Emergency Management organization called FEMA. Many of you have heard of that. It's kind of enlightening to attend these meetings every month, and we're learning. I'm learning myself a lot about this, not only through our own training we've had here with our own emergency management, but also this on a broader scale and how we fit into that picture. And it's a collaboration of all these regional cities and towns working together for a common goal, and this just all pyramids up the scale. So it's, again, a very important thing, and I hope to, in the future, bring back more information and how we as a city can contribute even more to this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Holman.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the National League of Cities, as did my colleagues at the left side of the table here, and I am vice chair of the First Tier Suburbs Council. Now, you may be asking, what's a first tier suburb? Well, Auburn is a classic example. We sit as a suburb on the outskirts of Seattle, and we're very fortunate in the Puget Sound Basin in that we have an organization called Sound Cities Association. Their tagline is 37 cities, 1.2 million people, one voice. It gives us an equal voice at the table compared to a city like Seattle. So the former mayor, Pete Lewis, used to have an overused phrase: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And it serves us well. Well, as vice chair of First Tier Suburbs, I partnered with Conrad Lee, Councilmember Conrad Lee from the city of Bellevue, and Auburn and Bellevue are going to co-host the next meeting of the First Tier Suburbs Council this summer. And we're partnering with the Sound Cities Association. And what we want to demonstrate to the rest of our colleagues on the First Tier Suburbs Council is how to form their own Sound Cities Association to give them equal voice, because cities range in size from the little tiny suburbs like Beauart's Village of some 300 people to a rather large city of Bellevue that's beginning to rival Seattle both in the economics and the number of citizens. So this is the way to level the playing field and give all of us equal voice towards on the state legislature and on the national legislature. So stay tuned for more. We're coming to Auburn.
Thank you. Councilmember Wagner.
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilmember DeCoursey.
Thank you, Mayor. On March 15th, I attended the regular monthly meeting of the King County Regional Transit Committee. The purpose of the meeting was a continuation of the briefings we've had on the Metro Connects Development Program. And this presentation included a report on how the policy development will be undertaken and how that influences the timing and the schedule of the Metro Connects program. We also presented a demonstration on policy guidance that will influence the regional project schedule, and we, as well as many other cities, are part of that element for the policy guidance. So on the committee, we will be providing Metro with a number of issues and items we need to bring forward to help them better develop their policy. We also received a briefing on what's known as the One Center City, And actually tomorrow at the South County Area Transportation Board, Skateboard, there'll be a presentation similar to that at that meeting as well. The One Center project is a partnership that's made up of King County Metro, Seattle DOT, Sound Transit, the Seattle Downtown Association, to look at the core center of downtown Seattle and everything from like South Lake Union up through Belltown, Capitol Hill, the International District, the Denny Triangle, First Hill, all those various areas, and how they better move people around within the transit corridor and how they make a better impact for people. There's over 200,000 residents in that core area and over 250,000 jobs within that area, and that's going to continue to grow over the next few years naturally. So in looking at how this will be developed, they're looking at a 20-year action plan that will define how we move people through, connect to, and experience the city central center. So it doesn't doesn't impact directly to Auburn, but if we have folks that are commuting back and forth to the downtown area, it does impact our residents of Auburn who do commute to the downtown area. And we will have input as well, because it could affect people coming out of that core area into areas like South County and in Auburn as well. So we will presenting some additional information as time goes on. And as we get more information on the One City Center, I'll continue to bring that information back to the council. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, a few things here. First of all, to touch on one of the topics that Councilmember Pelosi and Councilmember Trout-Manuel focused on during your report for National League of Cities, the heroin and opioid addiction crisis. We are working out of the mayor's office to put together a town hall meeting that will be a forum for all to attend and will also be a source of resources for people, counselors, different organizations that do help treat addictions will be there to talk with people who have an interest in that. So we don't have the date planned yet, but we are working on the logistics, and we'll keep you informed on what we're doing, because we no longer have the option of pretending it's someone else's problem. As you said, it's not just in our city, but it's in just about every city around. It is an epidemic, and we need to get in front of it, or try to. On Wednesday, the 15th of March, last week, we said farewell to Commander Jamie Seidel after 29.4 years. You know, we gave him a bad time and said you couldn't make it to 30, huh? But he had an opportunity to retire from the Auburn Police Department and will begin a new job in a couple of weeks with the Renton School District to be their director of security. So while we are very sad to lose Jamie and his years of dedicated service to our city, we are proud and thankful for what he did and wish him the very best in his new endeavors. But since Commander Seidel left an opening in the department, I am very pleased to announce to you that our newest commander is Commander Dan O'Neill, who actually is with us this evening. So that means that there will be a position for Sergeant O'Neill's replacement, and that will be announced soon, as well as who will be replacing Commander O'Neill with the community response team and training opportunities. So we should be hearing more about that soon, but congratulations, Dan, on your promotion. It's very well deserved. On Friday the 17th, I attended the Muckleshoot Tribal Wellness Graduation event. That is one of the events that was sponsored with our Healthy Auburn, Healthiest City in Washington by 2020 Blue Ribbon Committee, and it was breast milk, the first best food. And there were 17 graduates from Muckleshoot Tribe. We were there along with members of King County Public Health, Council Tribal Chair Virginia Cross, and we were there to celebrate the graduates who are not only helping themselves, but they are now trained to go out and help others within their communities. This has received some statewide and national attention, so we are honored to be in the forefront of that, and we'll be moving forward with additional partnerships. On Saturday the 18th, I attended along with Councilmember Holman. He was there with his wife, the 47th Legislative District Town Hall with Senator Joe Fain and our representatives Pat Sullivan and Mark Hargrove. It was a standing room only event, and Councilmember Baggett, yes, sat next to you and your wife Patty. And pardon?
Oh, you said Ann Patty.
Oh, yes. So it was a very, very good event. It was fairly well behaved, I would say. It certainly didn't get out of control like some that we've heard of, but there were a lot of good topics, specifically around education and transportation and healthcare and behavioral health, which we heard a little bit about tonight. So it was an excellent event. I am very thankful that we have very strong representation in the 47th. Auburn is well represented down in Olympia, not just in the 47th, but also in the 31st and the 30th. And sadly, as I left the 47th Town Hall, I was going to attend a memorial service for Cha-Cha Anderson. Those of you who have been here remember Chris Anderson, who was our environmental services manager. Chris left us a few months ago to work for the city of Seattle. However, his wife, Cha-Cha, had been battling cancer for over 8 years. And she succumbed just a couple of weeks ago, and it was a beautiful celebration of life for Cha-Cha. They even had her Mini Cooper in the church. She loved that car. It's a convertible, and she absolutely lived life to its very fullest. She and Chris have been married for a little over 16 years, and as Chris so bravely stood up and talked about Cha-Cha, he said, "We lived as long in our marriage without cancer as we lived with cancer." So a little over 8 years with and 8 years without. So our hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to the Anderson family as they mourn and also celebrate the life of a woman who loved life and lived it to its fullest. That evening, we attended the Auburn Noon Lions dinner auction, a fun event that was well attended as well. I know that my pocketbook was quite a bit lighter when I left that evening. I'm sure others were as well. And then as Virginia mentioned during public comment, this weekend we did lose an icon in the Auburn community. We lost our very own Bob Jones, who was a football coach as well as the athletic director for Auburn High School, and is a legend. In fact, there was supposed to be a surprise for Bob this coming Friday at an assembly at the school. It was, well, I won't go into all of it, but there is still going to be, I just learned, a memorial celebration for Bob Friday night at 7 p.m. at the high school. We had announced earlier at a scholarship fundraiser for Bob that the street in front of Auburn High School and in front of Troy Field, Auburn Memorial Stadium, Troy Field, that portion of the road will be known as Bob Jones Way. And so that sign should be available for us to present that night, along with one that will be put up. But at that fundraiser, I purchased this that was a quote from Bob Jones, and it says, "Focus on today." And so this sits in my office as a reminder each and every day that you need to focus just for today. Do the things to keep your own life in order, and pretend that it's the last day that you're going to be here, because Bob treated every day like that. He is someone that I will always admire, a friendship that I will always treasure. And rest in peace, my friend, you have definitely earned it. And Mr. City Attorney, do we have any need for an executive or closed session?
No, we do not, Your Honor.
All right, we are adjourned.